In several conversations that I've been having lately, there's been a recurring concern or challenge that people face when they start to come into full knowledge of this idea of feeling your emotions in the body and allowing them to be felt. Previous to that, the emotions were probably repressed or suppressed, but at any rate, not in the foreground of your experience. But as they start to come to the foreground, you catch on to the fact that they can be felt, and that to the degree that you feel them, you can also resolve them. One such emotion could be fear, but you could also have something like guilt, shame, insecurities of all kinds. So the challenge that arises when you try to start feeling your emotions more actively in order to resolve them is one in which either you know that there's something that needs to be felt, but you're afraid to feel it, so you don't want to go there. You're not ready for it. Or you feel like you're ready for it, you want to push through, but when you try to touch the emotion, you seem to bounce off of it. You can't make contact with it. And you see it's there, you try to approach it, and you bounce out. So you can't feel it somehow. And what I want to do in today's video is address that challenge specifically of why do you keep bouncing out or feeling like you are afraid of feeling the emotion. This channel is Meditation Amsterdam. My name is Pablo, and in order to get into the topic, I'm going to make use of a very crude and silly looking analogy, but I promise you the aha moment will be super clear by doing that. And what I'm going to use for the analogy is actually my arm. And the analogy is like this. Say that the emotion that scares you is the elbow. And say that your ego is the hand. Now, the hand is already there in the sense that you are already in egoic consciousness. There is a sense of being an individual, being a me. And because it's already there, what you're trying to do is you're trying to feel your elbow with your hand, which, as you can clearly see, cannot be done. Right? So you know that there's a fear here, or there's an emotional situation here in the elbow that you want to feel, and you're trying to reach it as an ego, and you can't, for obvious reasons. In this case, there are obvious physical reasons. In the case of the fear is, I presume they are neurological reasons, but it cannot be done. And of course, in the case of something like the elbow, if I was to tell you, hey, I'm trying to feel my elbow, and you would see me trying to do it with a hand, you would say, hey, are you nuts, right? Why don't you just feel it directly? Why do you need to touch it with the hand in order to feel it? What I would submit to you is that that's the very thing that we're trying to do when we start to do these spiritual practices of trying to surrender and feel our feelings. We are trying to do it as an ego. And the proof of that is that in the conversations that I have, or the way you would express that is you come to me and say, well, I keep bouncing off. I'm trying to feel my fear, but I keep bouncing off, or I feel like I'm afraid of it. I'm not ready for it yet. And what I'm trying to communicate to you is that the fact that you're saying I'm trying to feel my fear implies that you're trying to do with an ego something that can't be done with the ego. Already the I of the ego precludes you from making that move. Now, in the analogy, if we keep using the analogy of the arm, the unwanted emotion or the unresolved emotion is here the sensation of the elbow. The ego, or the sense of self, is the hand. And this part here in between is the move of reluctance to feel. And when you see it that way, you come to realize that the ego not only could not exist without the reluctance to feel the elbow directly or the fear directly, but is actually born from the reluctance. The ego is the face of the reluctance to feel. And therefore, using the ego to try to feel is a self-defeating exercise. Now, in the case of the arm, of course, you can just feel the elbow directly and be done with it. But how to do that with the mind when it comes to your fears and your emotions? Well, what you do is, instead of trying to use your sense of self to touch the emotion out of which it was born, to try and escape, what you do is you use your attention to feel into what this sense of self feels like first. So first it's going to feel like this personality that has a story that says, I'm afraid of feeling this and I'm bouncing off or whatever. But then you go deeper and you ask yourself, well, what is this I? What is the supposed I of the ego made of? And try to go into its source. As you use your attention to explore the source of the ego, what you're going to realize is that the source is a kind of sense of reluctance, right? So now you're going deeper into it. And when you go even deeper, you're going to realize that it is a sense of reluctance that is born directly out of the very fear that you don't want to feel, or the very emotion that you're not trying to feel. So in doing that, use your attention to travel from the sense of individual self into its essence, which is a kind of move of departure away from discomfort. And in accepting or observing the move of departure, you come to travel to the source of the departure, which is the discomfort itself. So the essence of what we're trying to do, the actual essence of it, is to feel the elbow directly, aka to feel the unwanted emotion directly, by using your attention to travel down from the supposed I that you are, from the supposed egoic self that you are, finding out what this forearm, aka the reluctance to feel the discomfort, and in traveling down that path of the reluctance, you come to directly feel the emotion that didn't want to be felt, and therefore you feel the elbow directly, as opposed to using your egoic hand to feel into the emotional elbow, if that makes any sense. So another analogy that people have used in this whole thing is that in order to catch your shadow, you would never run after it, but you would just grab yourself by the throat, and then that makes the shadow catch itself, so to speak, right? So once again, another way to try and understand this that I wanted to share with you guys. I presume this doesn't sound repetitive, and if it does, what I'm trying to do is find 1,000 different ways to make this point truly land. And I've noticed that with such analogies, the response from you guys in the comments and also in the coaching sessions has been really, really positive. I see a lot of aha moments taking place, which give me an enormous amount of energy and make me really enjoy doing this. So if this resonates, or if you have questions about it, do leave them in the comments. And if you think this content is valuable, share the channel, share the video, give us a like, and as usual, I'll be back with more content pretty soon. Cheerio.